What is up? And I cannot stress this enough, my gamers. Welcome back to another Gamers video. Today we're going to be doing something really fun. We're going to be comparing some boots. So basically, these are those PMS by Stellina boots that I found on eBay for $200. They're heritage, made probably sometime in the 70s. I've got a full video oiling these. And then these are the Timberland Redwood Falls mock toe. In terms of price, these are about $200 shipped to my door. And these were $160 at DSW. And basically we're going to be comparing basically an offering from heritage hiking boots and an offering from modern construction hiking boots. So let's get into it. I hike up this little gnarly section of trail, and we're going to start in the heritage boots. Now the first thing that you feel when you hike in these is how stiff they are. Basically, I can't even tell if these have a shank in them because the entire sole feels like a shank. You're standing on like thick leather, and the inside I believe is fiberboard. And basically, you're like over an inch up off the ground with these boots, 7 millimeters of which is strictly lugs on the outsoles. So what you end up with is shoes that stay very grippy, even in this muck. Of course, everything's gonna slip around on wet roots. And this nice big heel keeps you out of the muck, which is also very nice. They also have very stiff leather upper, which can keep you from rolling your ankle. So you can really be a lot more haphazard. And you can almost relax your whole foot where you're walking in these. In terms of ground feel, you cannot really feel anything because of the thickness and stiffness of the sole. And you can see that even if I try to roll my foot as hard as I can, I physically cannot do it. Like, I feel nothing, and that's the level of support that these offer. Mock toe, Redwood Falls, we're gonna do the same trail, and these on the rocks are actually more grippy because they've got what Timberland calls their grip stick outsole, and it's basically a slip rated work outsole. However, it's missing the lugs that the other boots have. So once you get up into this muck right here, theoretically they'll get clogged up, and I'm gonna start slipping, and it doesn't seem to be happening. That's actually very impressive because these have a ton of grip on these rocks right here. A little bit of slippage. Yep, and there it is. So because of the less lug depth that these have, you're missing that grip that you get with the Stellinas. Now, in terms of ankle support, if I try and roll my ankle, I can feel that I could roll my ankle in these. So these outers are not stiff enough to actually properly protect against rolling your ankle. Next up, we're doing the waterproofing test. I got the water and I got my boots on, and first we're gonna do the Timberlands. So he's right up in. This will come on around the leather, and it'll actually not go up near the tongue gusset. So right now we're just checking if the leather itself is waterproof. And it's actually, my foot is still completely dry, and it'll stay completely dry even if I move down to where that mock toe stitching is underwater, because these actually feature a waterproof membrane, and I can actually feel on my heel where the water is right up against that waterproof membrane, up against my skin, making my skin cold. So it has soaked through the leather, and this is in fact a waterproof leather. However, this boot itself will be soaked, just not my foot. So coming out, my foot is dry. As you see, it actually soaked into this leather. This leather is wet now, which isn't the best for the leather. Moving on to the PMS, put them first, not let that front stitching get in, and my feet are staying dry. I recently oiled these. These have no waterproof membrane, but it is really thick leather, so theoretically eventually water will get in. I mean, I'm staying dry. The leather is soaked. It's not, yeah, the leather has been soaked through. If I go ahead and put that toe seam in, I'm still dry, which is actually very surprising to me. They do have like a piece of cloth there that used to be rubberized but actually broke down over time, which it's being successful in keeping the water out, which is actually extremely surprising. So these are both waterproof, and this is the longest you'd ever have your foot in a river, like on a hike or something. Coming out, as you can see, the leather is wet. It has maintained some of its oils. But yeah, so basically both of these boots succeeded. So in terms of construction, these Timberlands are actually made in a very modern way. They're Timberland's direct attach, which is an extremely solid way to make a boot. Basically, these boots are in a mold, and then they pour this hot rubber and foam and whatever into the mold, so it actually attaches to the boot as it dries. So I've got no concerns about durability. They do have this stitch around the edge of the welt, which I don't know what that is. I think it might just be cosmetic. The way it's white thread makes me think that they just thought that the welt looked empty without it, but I don't know, it could be for something. In terms of the inside, it is fully lined. This is Timberland's rebottle fabric. So basically, this was made out of plastic, which I don't know how I feel about fabric like this in boots that are supposed to last a long time, because it's made out of plastic and not something better like leather, it'll actually make the whole upper of this boot not last as long, and then you've got an extra pair of boots in the landfill. There's definitely differing opinions about that. I think in terms of comfort and quality of this fabric, it feels nice. I do have some concerns about durability, especially because the way they've stitched this together, the stitching on the fabric actually runs right up back where your heel would rub against the boot naturally just a little bit. So eventually that thread may give out, or the fabric may give out, or both. But I think this is certainly a great lining for an $160 boot. And of course, the fabric lining is necessary to have the waterproof membrane, which kept me so completely dry in the waterproofing test. And these will be dry up to this eyelet right here, because that is where the tongue is gusseted. In terms of a shank for the Timberlands, I do believe they've got a shank, although that is bending pretty easily. But that does feel like it has a steel shank. But when I wear these on concrete for long periods of time, I can feel the high point caused by the heel. So whatever the shank they've got in there, either isn't stiff enough or isn't big enough to really 100% alleviate that. Although these are marketed as hiking boots, adventure boots, and you can't tell that pressure point when you're on dirt. It's only when you're on hard surfaces. Moving on to the Stellina boots, completely different construction. We'll start up at the upper. This is very thick 2mm leather, making up the main body of the boot, and this is actually a seamless design. The only seam is down the back right here, so you don't get any pressure points, and it's way more expensive to make boots like this where it's one piece of leather for the entire upper. And if you move on, they've got a piece of leather up to provide support to the front of your ankle, and this is actually 3mm leather. This 3mm leather actually provides a great, really locked in feel for these boots, in addition to the tongue. And now this leather, I actually cannot find any information whether or not it's real, and I can't tell. It feels, if it's fake leather, it is nice fake leather. My current theory right now is that it's heavily pigmented real leather, because I'd be really surprised if they made a whole boot like this and then included fake leather around the tongue right here. And they also have this heel padding, which allows you to cinch down these boots really tight and actually form a seal around your ankle along with this tongue, so less dirt's going to get in due to the heel padding. Moving on to the inside, it does have glove leather on the inside around where the heel is, and then down through the vamp is actually completely unlined. There's nothing except the outer leather right there. And of course, you got the classic hiking eyelets, which I actually love, even just from a design perspective. It is worth noting, these are laces that I had to buy for these shoes. These shoes off eBay did not come with laces. Moving on to the sole, it is a stitched down construction, which means that this upper is really just flared out and then stitched down to the midsole. It is a full leather midsole followed by a hard rubber, like I think it's midsole, subsole, I can't remember the terminology, but there's a layer of leather and a layer of hard rubber, and then you've got a PMS by Stellina outsole, which is a very robust midsole construction, and these are going to be something that you can resole over and over and over. And then this outsole is actually insane because these are 7mm lugs, which is part of the reason why these are so grippy over sticks and logs and stuff like that, because they can really lock into these lugs, but they do pick up mud if they're in really thick mud. And finally, moving on to the shank, and I can't tell if there's a shank in these boots because they're so incredibly stiff. It honestly feels like there's a shank throughout the entire thing. And like I mentioned, if you're on concrete, it almost feels like you're wearing ski boots, but on the dirt, these actually feel really good and really secure to have. So now, if you're looking for a very comfortable boot right out of the box, the Timberlands are gonna be much better for you because they actually have this foam midsole, which is a part of their sole construction. And so these are generally more comfortable boots. If you're looking for something that's softer underfoot, you got that more modern squish with the Timberland. It's gonna be less hard on your knees and your hips. Moving on to the Stellinas, these, it feels like you're stepping on like bricks and rock. There's no squish throughout the entire sole. And so these are gonna be a little bit harder on your knees and hips, but really the idea is that this leather midsole right here is actually gonna form to your foot and make them more comfortable as you wear them more. Of course, you can put padded insoles to get a little bit of squish, but I think what you get out of having less foam in your midsole is that you get way more stability, which is what these boots are made for. Finally, we're gonna talk a little bit about style, which is of course subjective, but you can't really ignore that these look kind of goofy anywhere except for like on some crazy alpine hiking trail. Where these, you can wear them pretty much anywhere. No one's really gonna bat an eye. Personally, I, as a boot nerd, think these look really cool. But if you're not around boot nerds and you want to look cool, obviously the Timberlands are going to have you covered. Okay, that's really all I have. Really, there's pros and cons to both. If you prioritize durability and stability, I would choose the vintage. But if you prioritize comfort and stylishness, I would choose the modern ones. Obviously, I, as a boot nerd, will be choosing the cool retro ones. But it's really up to y'all. Leave a comment if you have a strong opinion about either of these boots, if you think I chose a good representative for modern boots or for heritage boots, or if you have any experiences with either of these. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, like it. If you subscribed it, subscribe it, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.